exhibition was really a very long time ago, and actually predates the existence of the Archigram Group. It was the same people plus a couple more, but many of us were working for Theo Crosby, and he managed to wangle us some money from the Gulbenkian Foundation, and suddenly we were there in the ICA. Now, I think looking back, the previous exhibition that influenced us a lot was This Is Tomorrow, which I hadn't personally seen. I was still in the provinces. But it was really where you were both making a series of statements about architecture and urbanism and life and one's view of the world in general, at the same time offering the beginnings of alternatives. So that if you look in the various catalogues that surround the exhibition, and if you look at this diagram, the diagram is really a sort of talking to whoever may be wanting to listen, and stating the methodology of the exhibition and the idea of having sections of the exhibition in what we call gloops, the idea of making a special kind of capsule or carcass, and of course the serendipitous nature of the whole thing. If I look at various publications or recreations of that, it's very, very wild. It's the enclosure was a triangulated thing, and the material was very deliberately put in a sort of wild juxtaposition. And the diagram is a frozen version of that. At the same time, the slightly sort of screaming nature of the diagram, very deliberately not having everything lined up, very deliberately exploding, very deliberately including little bits, little tiny bits of picture. If you knew what you were looking at, where it says exhibition, it's actually the form of the capsule, of the enclosure. And I think this came from the period when one had already made Archigram 1, which also exploded the words all over the page, the idea that the words would flow freely and would just almost explode out. Of course, it doesn't completely work like that, because some of the text is in lines and straightforward. One was trying to make sure that the observer knew what the basic thing was, and then, as it were, chattering about it. The technique is one's favorite technique, which is to simply get a piece of tracing paper and draw on it and write on it. And I think that, of course, the thing that it didn't have very much was colour on that particular diagram, whereas the actual Living City exhibition was full of colour. It was very important that the Living City was full of colour. And it raises the issue of what is the role of a pamphlet. Is a pamphlet an announcement? Is it a poster? Is it to intrigue? Is it to just be almost another exhibit in itself? And I think this kind of drawing was almost trying to be an exhibit in itself. It is highly self-conscious, and it's very much of the aura of the whole thing.